Excellent. I've heard a lot of applause this morning and just now for everybody except the most important people here, which is the band. Jay Stollerman, please. I feel they're destined for greater things than welcoming me onto the stage. Thanks for coming back from lunch, those of you who did. How was it? Did you enjoy your lunch? Hands up those who enjoyed their lunch. Ooh. You came for the conference, you guys came for the food, clearly. It's a privilege for me to stand here. I've spent 20-something years, 25 years working with some immensely talented people. Very creative in all walks of life, from education to the environment to the creative industries to restaurants to TV, media and entertainment. I'm going to draw on some of the things I've learned from them and share them with you. And when I have something worth sharing, particularly you guys on the beanbags, because I know what that's like, and I know why you sat there, to help you, I've only got about 5 or 6 interesting things to say in the next 15 minutes. Jay and his team are going to do a little drum roll or a little flurry of some sort when I've got something interesting to say. Okay, so I'll give them a little signal. So if you don't fancy listening, or you are on your phones, oh, I've got my phone here as well. Apparently I can change my slides just by doing this. It works. I'm also going to introduce you to this chap. He's 12 years old. He's called Milo. He's prodigiously talented because he's my son. I live with him. He lives with me, but we live in parallel worlds. He's an addict. He's an addict. He's an addict to entertainment brought to him by digital screens. Doesn't matter what the shape or size of them are. He's an addict. This is him last Saturday at 9 o'clock in the morning. This is still him at 9 o'clock in the morning. This is him at 2:30 after I've asked him to come get some lunch. This is him, 7:15. He can barely see. The day has unfolded, but he hasn't. Why is that interesting? It's interesting because he's an addict to all the wonderful new entertainment opportunities that we bring him. And that has a big impact on us as innovators of entertainment. The more and more innovation and entertainment we give him, the less he values each new bit of entertainment. The law of diminishing returns sets in. So we as innovators have to try even harder to innovate to this generation than we are now. It's simple economics. So it's going to get harder. Whatever it is we're doing, whatever I tell you, it's going to get harder. This is also one of the many things he's been playing. So I've also read many places over the last few years that we need to innovate more. Innovate or die, I've read in many places. Now, the problem with that is it's an imperative. I don't know what you're like. I'm sure there are many creative people in this room. But when somebody tells me to do something, I instantly don't want to do it. Instantly. Viscerally don't want to do it. Here's a quote from a very famous Nobel Prize winner. A man is a success, and woman, is a success if he gets up in the morning, gets to bed at night, and in between he does what he wants to do. That's my definition of success. I run my own business. I'm very, very lucky. I hate being told what to do, even if it is go forth and innovate. This was the same man who gave us Times They Are Changing in 1962. It is, of course, Bob Dylan. And I suspect there are a lot of us in this room who secretly feel a bit like that. I've drawn upon some of the people I know, some of the people I've worked with, some of the people whose books I've read, and they vary enormously, but they are all innovators, and I think we all have something to learn from them. So from Björk to Lord Putnam to Saracens Rugby Club to Sam Chisholm, this chap over here in the middle, looks like an accountant, possibly the most terrifying man I've ever met in my life. He used to be chief executive of Sky here in the 90s. Some fabulous people. Here is Tony Shea. I don't know, anybody heard of Zappos? People know what I mean by Zappos? It's a shoe business. I know that doesn't sound very interesting, but it's a phenomenal business. He sold it to Amazon, a shoe business, for $1.2 billion. He's an innovator. We've got fabulous Nuno Mendes at the top. We've got, who's a chef, the Chiltern Firehouse. He does for food what Björk does for music. We've got Brian Eno, we've got Tom Harvey, who runs Soho Crate. It's a festival. We've got the wonderful John Lloyd, the producer and writer. We've got, who else we've got? We've got Faris Jacob, who's a phenomenal digital thought leader. And I've found some common threads. I have found a common thread between Sam Chisholm and Björk. I didn't think I would, but I have done. But first, there is an elephant in this room, and this elephant is this. We are all innovators, but 95% of all new products fail. You have a 5% chance of making a business success out of a product. Those odds aren't very good. I'm going to try and help you close that gap. But in so doing, I'm going to need your help. Because one of the things all these wonderful people earlier on, in the previous slide, they've all admitted in their careers that actually pushing themselves out of their comfort zone is one of the prerequisites. That's a little, sorry, band. Pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. They all live on the edge. They all want to be out of their comfort zone in order to innovate. So that's the first thing. Sorry, I'll try and give you a bit more warning next time. This is Tony Hsieh. Because if 95% of innovation fails, what can we do in order to improve those odds? Well, this is one thing we can do. He states this: our belief is our brand, our culture, and our pipeline. They're the only sources of competitive advantages we have in the long term. Everything else can be copied. And this is quite an interesting thought. We all innovate, and lots of us innovate without any thought about how easy it is for you to copy it. So the best thing to do for us as innovators in whatever line of work we are is to try and find the bit of the business which is least copyable. Anybody can sell shoes. Anybody can sell shoes online. What they can't do is create a brand and a culture around the brand that makes people desperately want to come back and buy their shoes there. And so that's what he innovates on. Which brings us on to a question I suspect I should have asked at the very beginning, which is what we think innovation is. It's one of those things we've talked about all day, and I haven't listened to all the sessions this morning. Has anyone tried to define it? Anyone? No. I'm going to give it a go. It says so one of those slippery words that the more you think about it, the more pressure it exerts on you. It's not a process. I don't know and respect the work of anybody, I think, for whose the creativity and innovation comes out of a rigid process. It does work if you're a big company up to a point, but rarely do you produce anything of value that is innovative. It's not a thing. You can't touch it. You can't see it. John Lloyd made a very interesting statement about things that you can't see. He said that the most important things in life are things we can't see. The most important things in life are the things we can't see. Love, gravity, electricity, power, influence. I think innovation is up there. It's a thing that we can't see. So it's not a thing. I think it's the thing that unites these people is a disruptive spirit. That's, to me, what innovation is. And that's what unites all these people. They've got completely different skills, and they work in many, many different categories. But they're united by a disruptive spirit. Now, it's all very well saying, what's a disruptive spirit? What else do you do with it? I'm going to shed a little bit of light here. So what we've already done is change, I'm going to give you 3 seconds this time, change the language. I so wish I could do that. One of the things that all these people have done is change the language in their categories. You know, Richard Branson, when he launched Virgin Atlantic, what did he do? He put in the 1 or 2 planes he had, he staffed them with people who'd never been cabin crew before in their lives. Why? Except the pilots. They'd never had anybody who'd done a job in the cabin crew. Why? Because they wanted to change the experience for every element of the language, the visual language, the oral language, the customer experience. That's exactly what he did. I think I'm right in saying that the first in-flight magazine, who was on the front cover? Bob Dylan. So if you take Cyril here, Cyril Gutsch, this one here, good glasses he's got, he must be creative. He runs in an organisation called Parley. Parley has a very clear mission in life, which is to save the planet. And I'll come on to missions and purpose in a second. But he changes the language. He doesn't talk about sustainability, he talks about eco-innovation, which is much more exciting than talking about sustainability. But my favourite story about language of change is this, and it is only a theory, but I love it, which is why I'm going to share it with you. This is a representation of a Homo sapiens around 30,000 years ago. At that time, in fact 40,000 years ago, we were not alone in being human species on the Earth. I didn't know this, maybe you do. There were two other species. There was Neanderthals and Homo denisovans. Now, about 40,000 years ago, the denisovans became extinct, and about 28,000 years ago, they think Neanderthals did. Why? Why did Homo sapiens survive? Well, the others didn't. We were bigger? No, we weren't bigger. Did we have bigger brains? No, we didn't do that. The answer, people think, is language. Because what they managed to do was to evolve language so that it could unite, engage, and mobilize large groups of people. Before that, language was only capable, Homo sapiens and all the other species, Homo species, lived in village-sized communities. What Homo sapiens managed to do was create fiction, and in doing that, they managed to create myths and stories and gods and what have you, and central belief systems. So they mobilized large swathes of Homo sapiens and managed to therefore see off their competitors. So they were quite motivated to save themselves as a species, which brings me on to my next point, which is having a purpose.
3, 4.
Brilliant, thank you. This is Cyril again. Partly I've talked to you about saving the planet. That's quite a big purpose. But if you look at many big businesses, they've all got big purposes to survive. So, take Richard Branson at the beginning. His view on all his businesses is to make a positive difference. To make a positive difference is a big purpose for his businesses. It doesn't matter whether it's airlines, whether it's gyms. GlaxoSmithKline, I can't speak, GSK, let's call it that. They help people do more, feel better, live longer. It's a big mission that guides everything. So Parley's is about, so his mission is about, his purpose is about saving the world. The mission is about removing virgin plastic. Plastic is killing our oceans. It's killing our oceans by killing everything that lives in it. These are some birds found in a remote part of the Pacific where they all die because of eating plastic. And that's enabled him to go to Adidas and create shoes out of this plastic. So they make a fortune doing this. You feel good about it. But it's all driven by the purpose of saving the ocean. It makes it much easier to describe yourselves. Here's a perfect example of this. This is one that everybody in this room will be familiar with, I hope, if I can get it to work. It does all those things. Need a bit more sound.
Well, yo, right now, kick the bass for them brothers and let them know
What goes on? Rolling stones in the rap game, not bragging. Lips bigger than Jagger, not sagging. Spell it backwards, I'ma leave it at that. That ain't got nothing to do with rap. Get up.
Just like that.
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 I know this is a shock.
Screaming gangster 20 years later. Of course, endorsed while consciousness faded. New generations believe in them fables. Gangster boogie on 2 turntables. Thank you for letting us be ourselves. So don't mind me if I repeat myself. These simple lines be good for your health. To keep them drum rhymes on the shelf. Live love life like you just don't care. Never scared. Rain the noise is the moment they feared. Get up, still a beautiful idea.
Absolutely brilliant. It's the best thing I've seen for 5 years. Why is it so good? It's got such a clear purpose about changing the nation's attitude towards the disabled. It's got very clear language. It talks about superhumans. The third thing it does, drum roll, makes us feel different at the end of it, which is what I've heard a lot of this morning, so there's nothing desperately new about it, but couldn't have been put better than anyone than Lord Putnam, he says. And he's particularly referring to technology in the world of entertainment. He said, does it have the capacity to help us feel more? Can it make us cry? Because the great brands do not all make us cry, but they all enable us to feel something different. And even the tech brands that we're all familiar with, be that Uber, which changes how we feel about the category of travel. We feel safe in a cab now, in a mini cab where we never did before. So real core feeling that Uber delivers is safety. Airbnb to another extent in terms of humanizing travel. Steve Hilton, David Cameron's last guru or something, I'm not quite sure what it was, but he talks very eloquently about humanizing politics, about enabling politics and world issues to be within touch so we can change how we feel, as does this man here. Now, the most important feeling we need to address as people who innovate is yeah, I'm sorry. Actually, might just rather they carried on playing. I get that. Is fear. Richard Branson puts an enormous amount of effort, energy, and money behind helping young people, entrepreneurs, to break down their fear. There's nothing to fear except fear itself. So, I've decided I can look out now. I was wondering whether to do this, whether I was getting anything back, and the answer is no. So I'm going to do it, which is a bit of audience participation. Oh, no, really? Yes, just 30 seconds each of audience participation. What I want you to do is to do this. I want you to find somebody you don't know and ask them, and then they will ask you this question. What would you do today if you lost your fear? I'm going to give you 1 minute from now. Each turn to somebody you don't know, ask them this question. It's horrible, isn't it? And they will then ask you. And I should come over here to the bean bags. Is there anybody still awake over here? No. Right, that's enough. That's enough. There's a lot of chat at the back. I don't know whether that had anything to do with what I'd asked you to do. There's absolutely no chat down here. Thank you. But it was interesting, isn't it? It feels difficult releasing your fears, particularly one to a complete stranger. And we need to learn to overcome them. Chaps, or whoever you are at the back, I can't hear you. The final point is this. I'll be off in a second. The final point, when faced with the challenge to innovate, is that innovation is very rarely something completely new. It's normally a new juxtaposition of existing elements. So this fabulous guy, if you don't know him, you should look him up, Faris Jacob. As I said, he's a sort of current-day social digital thinker. He talks about originality being a myth. New ideas are very, very rare, and accept it. Because if someone says, come up with a new idea, it's very difficult to do. If someone says, take that and take this, and what happens when you combine them? The interesting things, the interesting bit's the bit where they overlap. I've got one more piece of work to show you on the grounds that I think is a brilliant piece of communication, and it captures much of what we've been talking about.
Hello, my name is Gwyneth, and I'll be your professor today. And I will be talking about the brain.
Hi.
Hello, I'm your veterinarian today.
You're Kitty.
Nope, I'm Dr. Brooklyn. See?
Okay, doctor.
Oh, here, let me see. Good morning, everyone. I'm your new coach. My name is Maddie. Nice to meet you. I had the most fantastic day in the office. You'll never believe what happened. We got that new business I wanted. Have you ever seen him fly?
Have you seen him what?
Fly?
No.
My cat can fly.
Okay.
The dog's brain can't think as much as the human's brain because there's no high school for the dog. This is Peter, the Triceratops. Peter is 1 year old. The T-Rex, Sally, is 1,002,252 years old. Knees up like a unicorn. Higher, higher. I've been to New York, Transylvania, Pennsylvania. We can think and do lots of stuff with our brain. Now, does anybody know how big the brain is? Anybody? Sophia. It is medium. Medium? Very good.
Again, I think that's absolute genius. On the subject, this last thing, subject of genius, I decided to try and innovate my way out of my son's addiction and came up with this. Remember, he's been on the device 10 hours a day, so I came up with a rope, $8.99 from Amazon. Thought I had to think laterally, think outside the category, face your fears, tie a knot, climb up a tree, and that's him. I cut his gaming consumption by about 40% in one day by thinking laterally. Thank you. And thank you to Jay Stoller.